Feel me? Yeah. She my peanut butter jelly snack. Pull it ride, but she painting. That's my sunshine when it's raining. That's my boo, yeah. When I'm all alone, she pull through. So when I catch that wave, we gon' move. But then again, we probably won't. Cause I know she like to stay. Welcome back, everyone, to the Collab Podcast. Here we are, season 5. Yay! And we're back with Devin and Dylan, and we're going to do a quick recap on our season 4, which was a ton of fun. We had a lot of fun last season. Yeah, in particular because we brought Dylan on. That was like the big news of last season. We brought Dylan on as a co-host. But let's take it back to our first episode of last season. We had the great pleasure of sitting down and talking with Jacobie and Joshua Bluhm, and they were so much fun. I just remember laughing a lot in that episode.
Yeah, that was a really fun episode. It felt like we could just talk to them so naturally. I think that was the first time that we actually had a conversation with them, but throughout our dance journey and talking through that episode, we found that there were so many moments where we probably ran into them, or like, they knew Dion, and Dion was a huge part of our dance journey. So just a lot of very full circle moments, I think, that happened in that episode. So all around, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and what I loved about it is that they were so open about their experiences, but also they were really open and honest about how they were dealing with the pandemic and the studio. Like, they just had their dancers in mind. Like, they just had their teams in mind. They didn't even really think, I mean, of course they did it safely, where they, were bringing kids back into the studio and everyone had to wear masks and they had a big cleaning protocol, but they were really focused on putting their dancers first, because what they were finding was their dancers really needed that outlet and needed that space during the pandemic. And so their focus was to make sure that their kids were back in the studio. And I really loved that about them. I loved their motivation and their drive to do that, because you could tell that they're passionate about what they do. Yeah, that was a great episode. And then after that, we talked to Kevin Nierva, who, at the intro, when we introduced him, it was one of those things that I had talked about. Like, when you hear Kevin Nierva's name, it sort of has this like, you kind of want to squeal, I guess, because you're like, oh, Kevin, I know Kevin. And I think we told him that, and he was like, okay, cool. I've never really thought about that. But he has sort of that aura about him. He's very swag, but he's also very humble. And he's just a really prominent figure in the community right now. And it was a lot of fun talking to Kevin.
Yeah, it really was. I think for me, talking to Kevin, it was sort of connecting with more of Dylan's generation of dancers. So he didn't make me feel old, but I think it was just like connecting with the youth. And I guess I can't really call you guys the youth anymore, because you're the front runners for where dance is headed. So to pick his brain on what it was like dancing here in the Chula Vista area versus now where he dances up north, kind of seeing the differences. And just, I remember specifically towards the end of the episode, he said something that really resonated with me, and that is that we're guests of the hip hop community. And I think that ties back to our very first season, very first episode, where we had our Black Lives Matter. I think it was 2 episodes at the beginning of the season. I think it kind of tied back to all those things that were talked about and need to be continued in our conversations going forward, because we are guests, and we have to respect the community and the culture and make sure that we are paying respect in the right way. I guess I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, and then I think Kevin even, gave a quick shout out to Dylan during the episode. And yeah, I agree, Dev. I mean, it was nice to connect with Kevin in that way on sort of a deeper level, to have him share his insights. And like you said, Kevin and, Dylan and all of their peers are the front runners of what dance is going to be now. And that's actually really exciting. I mean, it makes me feel old, but at the same time, it's really exciting because you have these really, amazing dancers out there kind of leading the way for us. So that was a great episode. Yeah. And then
it was great because I edited it. My first episode, I edited
it.
Big
ups to Dill.
And it was seamless, Dylan. You did an amazing job. Well, and then we announced our big news. Dylan was joining us on the Collab podcast. Hey.
The best decision you ever made. I'm just kidding.
Truly. I think it was such an awesome part of the 1-year anniversary collab celebration.
Agreed. And in that episode too, that was a fun episode because we talked about Dylan, we announced him being a co-host on the podcast, but then we transitioned a little bit, Dev, because we were talking about you and sort of your decision to transition, a little bit further away from the podcast. And, the thing that I took away from it was, and we titled the episode "The Power of Saying No," because a lot of times, we're saying yes, we're agreeing to things. We're very agreeable, I think, as a society, because we like to maintain compliance and peace and happiness. And a lot of times when you do that, you fail to serve yourself. And I think it was a really important message for you to come on and talk about your experiences and how you took on too much. And then you had to take a step back and reevaluate what you actually had going on, and having to make some of those sacrifices, I think, was really courageous and brave. And it's a really important message because as dancers, I think we try to take on a lot because we want to balance having all of that creativity, but then we have the struggle of like, okay, we need to be professionals and we need to maintain sort of another side to it. And the next thing you know, it's piling up and you're overwhelmed. And so I just really loved the message that you had to share about, saying no and being in tune with what your needs are first, because you can't take care of others until you really take care of yourself.
Thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate it. I think when I was talking during that episode, I was still processing a lot of my decision to take a step back from the podcast. So I was just kind of speaking out loud and trying to organize my thoughts that way. I love what you said, and I want to reiterate it, that dancers are we take on a lot, and there's a huge focus on community. So there is, I think, sometimes an imbalance where we're giving so much to the community, right? Because that's what drives us. But really, like you said, taking a step back and making sure that you've taken care of all of your own stuff. That way you can continue giving, right? So, there's a saying, self-love and self-care is not selfish. And so I think that really sums up kind of something that I think dancers need to hear, especially since they're back in rehearsal. I don't know if Dill wants to talk a little bit about that. I know we're recapping a lot, but don't forget that you deserve time for yourself, even though it's exciting to be back in rehearsal and out and not at home.
Yeah, going off what Devin said, going back to in-person rehearsals, going back to a somewhat normal lifestyle. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the Delta variant, fingers crossed. But I think the main thing a lot of people that I've talked to with is what the quarantine has done to them mentally, and just trying to get their feet back into dance. It could be very discouraging, especially for myself. And, you know, just also taking care of your body, like physically. I think when we get back in the grind of 2 practices, 3 practices a week, you're bound to injury. Yeah. So, you know, what Devin was saying, just making sure you keep your body in shape and you keep your mind in shape, because as much as dance gives, it can take a lot away from you. It takes a lot of energy away from you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a great reminder for our listeners as things start to open back up, because you're right, Dill. Like everyone, and Dev, you said the same thing. Everyone's so excited to be back in person and in studios and rehearsing, and you know, everyone wants to get out and do, but you have to really be thoughtful and mindful with transitioning back into it, because if the pandemic taught us anything, it taught us that we need to take time to ourselves to reflect and to nurture our bodies, because we only have one. So yeah, I love that. And that was really powerful in that episode. But then we took a weird transition turn and we talked about potential dance reality shows. And that was like a ton of fun. And I think Devin's won. I mean, let's just surrender, Dylan. Her idea was the best.
You know, I feel bad because like I really like jumped on Dylan's idea, and it's not his fault if he doesn't remember that we had the conversation before. You know, Dylan came in and in that moment it was his original idea. And you know what? Like the thing is, Dylan is perfect for like hosting and narrating that type of show. Like I could think of no one better to really like take dancers and put them in sort of a food journey and documenting it. I would watch it.
I can see that.
So that was my very poor way of apologizing. So let me take a step back. I'm sorry that I cut you off on your initial proposal of your reality show, Dill. I should have kept quiet and let you say your piece. So I don't think that I was being fair. So I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. You know, I'm still waiting on my calls. Netflix, still waiting.
Not Netflix. Not Netflix, because you didn't want Netflix, right?
Oh, who did I say?
I don't know.
You said anyone but Netflix.
Oh, Netflix. I'm still waiting for that call.
No, I guess your options open.
Yeah. I guess now that we're talking about it, I've been thinking about it for a while. I have two new ideas. Very quick.
Do it. Pitch it.
Very quick. Okay. I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast, but I'm quite the pasta connoisseur. I make a mean pasta.
You do.
Agreed.
So it'll just be dancers cooking pasta, competing. And I'd always win because, I mean, my pasta's the best. I'm just kidding. And then the other one, we started watching an old game show called Moment of Truth. It's a very intense. I forgot what the channel was. It's a very intense game show. So it'll be like, for those that don't know, it's where they take a contestant and before the show they have to take a polygraph test. And on the actual show, they have to answer the questions truthfully and they win money. But if they don't answer the questions truthfully, they lose all the money and they're kicked out of the game. So instead of answering the question, you have to dance the section correctly.
No, I got it, Del. I love it. Okay, you could do Moment of Truth, but you could do dancer related questions like, Dylan, have you ever stolen choreography from another dancer?
Dylan, what did you actually think of Jordan's choreography? Was it good, or did I'm just kidding.
That'll be funny. You just see on the screen, Dylan has left the Zoom chat.
Devin, what do you really think of Dylan's pasta?
It's so good. It's so good. I want him to make it again today.
It is really good. It is really good. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm
If I'm being like honest, I could eat like 3 to 4 servings of it, which
Totally.
it's so good.
You know, all the listeners right now, all the collabers. Quick rundown. Rigatoni pasta. You can get this all at your local Vons, Ralph's, Sam's Club,
Ralph's.
Costco.
Who's Ralph's?
Ralph's.
Ralph's is the fancy version of Ralph's.
Yeah. You can get it at your Sprouts, Target, Wally World, Walmart, whatever. All right. Sorry, this is not dance related, but I got to let the people know.
It's to refuel their bodies after practice.
Exactly.
And pasta is a good meal to eat after dancing. After it's good energy. So,
or just all the time, because pasta's delicious.
Pasta's amazing. Okay. Everyone get your iPhone notes out, your notepad out. It's going down.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. Put it in the show notes. So 1, rigatoni pasta. Rigatoni. Rigatoni.
Not only can he dance, he can spell.
Ooh, a spelling bee? A spelling dance off? What? Okay, sorry, getting off topic. What a recap episode. Okay, stop. Rigatoni. Heavy whipping cream. Heavy, not light, not medium, heavy. Tomato paste, not tomato sauce, paste. And then you need minced garlic, not chopped, minced. And then olive oil. I prefer extra virgin because it kind of soaks up the garlic, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Extra virgin. And then what's after that?
Bacon.
I've learned throughout my years of cooking pasta not to use thick cut bacon because that takes too damn long to cook. So just regular bacon, but you chop it up into bacon bits. Mm-hmm. And then what else am I missing? And chicken stock. This is a secret I learned from the great Chef Larry. When you're working with tomato paste, use chicken stock because tomato paste is bitter without anything in it. And when you put chicken stock, it kind of, what's the word? It thins it and it makes it taste more like, gives it more of that real like meaty flavor. And then red chili flakes.
There you have it, collabers. That's Dylan's secret pasta recipe. Dylan, I think you are on the wrong podcast, but
sorry, I know that was off topic.
No, your pasta's freaking delicious. And you have Dylan's top secret pasta recipe exclusive to collab podcast listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget the Parmesan cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, how could I forget? Oh, and then if you want to spice up your pasta a little bit, you got to do a little freestyle with your friends. You got to do a little freestyle circle with your friends. Do a couple 8 counts. You know what I mean?
Around the pot of pasta.
Well, and your pasta's so good, it'll definitely make you dance. For sure. Hey, pasta. All right, let's get back to the recap. I'm getting hungry. I want Dylan's pasta now. All right, so then, okay, after we had our episode announcing Dill as the co-host, it seemed only fitting to actually bring the ultimate dance mom on. And that happened to be our mom. And I absolutely loved this episode because number one, it was with our mom. But number two, anyone that knows our mom knows that she doesn't love a ton of attention. And so the fact that she actually agreed to come on our podcast and talk about what it was like growing up, wanting to be a dancer and becoming a dance mom, it was just really meaningful to us to be able to sit down and talk with her. And we loved that episode so much.
Yeah. I love that episode because it was Mama, but also because I just want to say thank you to our listeners for being so freaking amazing and sending in so many kind comments and messages about that episode. I think it meant a lot. And maybe you didn't know. Our mom is nervous, but hearing everyone's kind comments and feedback really meant a lot. And I think a lot of people were surprised to know and learn that she didn't really have a huge dance background other than she loved to dance. And I think when people meet our mom, they just kind of assume that both mom and dad were dancers, and that's why all of us got into the dance community. But it really was just her love of dance and being able to, I think, see her kids live her dream was very rewarding. So I'm glad that we had her on the episode to talk about all of those wonderful things that we did.
Agreed. Well, and then we couldn't have our mom on the podcast without having our dad on the podcast. And so in our 6th episode of last season, we brought our dad on, and, the world knows him as, world-renowned Chef Larry Banares, and has only ever known him to be a chef. And Larry, aka Dad, revealed some deep, dark secrets during our episode. And he talked about, I'm joking about the deep, dark secrets, talked about growing up being a dancer and what that was like in a different time where dance wasn't as accepted, particularly in males. Talked about growing up in a family where dance was a priority over academics. And I remember, several weeks ago, the family went to a party, and one of our uncles, not by blood relation, but we grew up with him, has known Dad since high school, and listened to the episode and was like, I didn't know any of that stuff about your dad. I've known him since high school and I didn't know any of that stuff. And so I think everyone really walked away from that episode seeing a different side of Dad and a true appreciation for how creative he is.
I think that episode was really interesting, and I want to touch back on what you had just said, Ate, was that he grew up in a household where dance was a priority. How many of us can say that? It's not very common. We were very lucky that our parents were just our biggest cheerleaders in being on several dance teams and going for dance as hard and as passionately as we did. But I feel like that's not common. It's not common, and it's kind of difficult even for me to comprehend how strict of a dance regimen Dad had to go through. It really was everything. That was their world growing up. So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, and going off that, I was gonna say, just learning all that stuff about Dad. I mean, during the episode, there was stuff I was like, "You're not my dad. I don't know who you are. I need to find my real dad." It was so insightful, and I felt like it gave more into the star and the celebrity that Dad is, or that Larry is as just a person. Because I mean, like you told from our uncle, they just know him as a chef. They know him as Chef Larry. That's all he goes by. And, you know, especially after releasing that episode, you could see just how many people wanted to watch just Chef Larry talk about himself. And I felt like a lot of people, like you said, just came away with a new understanding of how hardworking and how much talent comes from a single person. It's just amazing. It's really amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people were confused about the fact that we were bringing our dad on the collab podcast where, you know, we're supposed to be talking with, you know, dance leaders and prominent figures in the community. And, you know, I mean, yes, we brought our mom on because, you know, she's a dance mom, but I think people are a little bit confused because, you know, like you guys said, people only know Dad in his one identity, and that is as a, you know, celebrity chef. And to have Dad sit down and open up with us and talk about it. And, you know, we've heard stories, bits and pieces here and there about, you know, his time with grandma and dancing with his brothers and sisters. But to have that dedicated time to really sit down and like pick his brain and have him really open up about his experience, I think was very special to us because we have a newfound appreciation for our dad and seeing a different side of him. So that was a really, really meaningful episode as well.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Thank you. Say it, Dylan. Say thank you.
Dang. I always say thank you to Mom and Dad.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Love you guys.
Well, and then, you know, it wouldn't be nepotism if we didn't bring on our brother, Jordan, to celebrate a year of podcasting. So to wrap up our previous season, we brought on the one and only favorite child of the Banares family, Jordan.
I cannot disagree with that statement. I cannot disagree with that statement. That's all I'm going to say on this recap. I will be gone the rest of the episode. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it helps that Jordy is actually really fucking talented and he's worked incredibly hard to be the dancer and the man that he is today. So Jordy, we give you credit, you know, it wasn't just like a handout, like here, come on to the collab podcast, you know. Jordy's, I mean, I think about where Jordy started and our first episode with him and then our follow-up conversation with him in that episode. And it's crazy. I think it's freaking crazy and insane that he feels as though I kind of latched onto this one thought that he shared with us, and that's he feels like he's like trying to get back into it and trying to play catch up. I don't see that. I feel like Jordy has really maintained like where he's been in dance. Sure, he's not actively dancing or on a team right now, but he's still freaking got it, you know? And I think he needs to give himself a little bit more credit than he has.
Definitely. I agree. And Jordy, I was just teasing you. It definitely wasn't a handout episode. You know, we really were thoughtful in planning out our episodes for the season. And, you know, we really wanted to bring it back to the foundation and the core of the four of us because, you know, our dance journey starts with each other. You know, we all started dancing. I mean, we kind of all started dancing separately, but I think what really added meaning to our dance journey is that we started dancing together as siblings. And that really strengthened our bond as fellow dancers, but also as siblings. And so to bring you on, Jordan, for the last episode where we're celebrating, you know, this first year of this, you know, new milestone for our dance journey, it just seemed perfect. And, I agree, Dev. I think Jordan has worked incredibly hard, and he's incredibly talented. And even now, he'll send us videos of himself freestyling, and he's still got it. And it was just a lot of fun to talk to him and reconnect with him. When we talked to him, he was still in Spain, but the fact that we were able to connect over Zoom, just really made it, I think, special and a great way to end season 4. And that was it. We were an episode short this season, but we also did that on purpose because we really wanted to. What is happening?
Jordy, I don't freaking remember how to dance, so the fact that you remember how to dance, you're up here, dude, in my mind.
You guys always say, I don't know how to dance anymore, blah, blah, blah. But then you guys were killing it in the Toto.
On Ate's birthday?
Yeah.
Okay, but let's recap a little bit of that night for our listeners. So I always forget, I have to follow along when that song comes on. I don't remember the steps. So Dylan was trying to do a master class on it, count me off. And I asked him to do it with just counts and stuff like that. I was having a hard time despite Dylan's clear instruction. So yeah, I was a little out of it, but that was fun.
I mean, you got to give yourself credit too. The listeners don't know, but you used to teach master classes all the time. Mm-hmm. I remember that. Mm-hmm. And I was only what, 12? I still remember that.
Mm-hmm. I still have the scars from all the floor work to prove.
That's so funny. But yeah, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. For me too. I mean, I still try to take classes on Steezy every once in a while, but I'm not going to lie, you guys. I search beginning intermediate classes. I'm too scared to take advanced classes on Steezy. Hey, I'll watch them, but I'm too scared.
Don't be scared. Don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged that you take beginner intermediate. I feel like whatever dance level you are at, you should always take a beginner class, because a lot of people forget how to properly two-step. And
That's
it's
true.
always good. It's always good just to get back to your foundation. And it's just fun to do something really chill, just to have, because we all dance because it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's good just to dance, just to have for the fun of it. So take a beginner class.
I like that. That's great, Dill. What a great reminder. You're right. It's so important to remember your foundation. So taking beginner and intermediate classes isn't a bad thing. You're absolutely right. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah. Take a beginner class and make my recipe. That's how you become a better dancer.
That's the challenge for season 5, episode 1.
Mm-hmm. If you want, send it to the YouTube. I don't know how. DM us on Instagram, picture of your pasta. Maybe we'll do a little side episode where we'll all judge your guys' pasta. If you guys are down with that, I don't know.
Bonus episode. Because it's the first episode of the season, I want to take a page from a podcast that I was listening to the other day, the Mad Happy podcast. And if you want to hear some thoughts and conversations on mental well-being, I highly recommend the podcast. I think they had Eric Nam on it, Emma Chamberlain, and they had Logic. That's why I listened to it. So a lot of great interviews already, but I think it would be really fun to just kind of wrap up this episode. And maybe it's something that you guys can ask future guests. I'd love to hear their responses to it. But I I would like to invite us and our listeners to go around and answer the prompt of dance is blank. And you can say why you feel that way, or just say that dance is, I'm going this way, but it's this way, huh? For if you're listening on the video. If you're listening on the video, I might be laying out the words in the wrong direction. I don't know.
No, that's right.
It's
Left
right.
to right.
This way?
Yeah, left to right.
Dance is so
Yeah.
for me, I'll kick things off. I know it's just there's so much movement. That's why you gotta watch the video podcast. I mean, if you're listening, that's cool too. Like, drive safe or go about your day as usual, but you're missing all of this.
You're missing the sweet dance moves.
Yeah, the sweet dance moves. What?
Hey.
So for me, I feel today dance is freeing, and it's something that I haven't felt in a really long time. A really, really long time, just because I think I look back on my dance journey and so much of it was a commitment. I had so many obligations and commitments, and I honestly can't remember the last time where I just felt free to dance. And the last couple weeks I've been trying to freestyle more. I know that's something that I've talked about in previous episodes, but it just feels freeing again, and it's such a good feeling. So I wanted to share that with you guys.
Wait a tick.
You gotta answer the prompt now.
You've been freestyling and you haven't told me?
I mean, not like how you freestyle. I mean, I think when Dylan freestyles, he sets up the music and he puts his tripod and he films it, like so that he can like review right and keep record. But I mean, it's not like it just kind of like when music comes on, like I'll make sure that if my body starts moving, that I give myself permission to like dance. So it might be in the middle of like work or in the middle of training, because that's usually when I listen to music.
I love that. I love that for you. And it should be like that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a nice reminder that dance can feel free.
I'm gonna cry.
No, why? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Provoked
Watch. Quia's gonna get back into it, or sorry, Jordan's gonna get back into it, and then watch, Devin's gonna get back into it, and then Michelle's gonna get back into it. We're gonna be freaking unstoppable. Watch. I'm calling it now. Calling it. Yeah, for me, dance is, I don't know another word for it, but dance is moving. It's like right now, I mean, kind of what Devin said. Right now with dance, I've just been giving myself permission, or giving my body permission just to move. And I feel like I had a conversation with one of my friends about it, where dance is going now. I feel like where dance is going right now, it's going more towards the direction of just how you feel when the music goes on, instead of just these intricate combos. It's more of just, this is what the choreographer felt at the moment, and this is what we're going to do. And he wants you guys to feel the same thing. And I feel like that's a great thing to focus on, because I feel like when dancers take class, they get worried, they get anxious, because they're like, I need to get this combo down. Like, I need to do good. And it shouldn't be about that. It should just be about, how the actual piece makes you feel, or how the teacher sets up the class for you to make you feel. And yeah, right now dance is evolving for me. That's the word.
For me, dance is happiness right now, because it's really given me I think kind of removing myself from, the competitive space and, the studio, at that time, dance was stressful because we had obligations and, there was pressure to meet certain deadlines and certain expectations. But since that time, I've really been able to enjoy dance and look forward to it. And so for me, it brings me a lot of happiness to be able to like just have to myself. And I feel refreshed and rejuvenated after. And I feel good. And when you're in the moment, dancing, taking that class, it just makes you happy. Like all the instructors that I've taken class with on Steezy, like they're all just amazing. And, it's almost like you're in the room with them and they make silly jokes and, and you laugh and it just makes you feel so good after. So right now, to me, dance is happiness. I love that.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it too. Thanks for sharing how you guys felt. And I just thought that was for the podcast that I listened to, it was just kind of a derivative prompt. And I don't know. I think because it's a new season and like we mentioned earlier, dancers are getting back into the studio, getting back into rehearsals. It's interesting to hear how dance is for us right now, because at the beginning of the pandemic, I'm sure our responses were very different.
Mm-hmm.
Before, during, and now that we're in a new chapter, going back to rehearsals, going back into studio.
Yeah,
will be very different.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you again to our listeners for all of your support. And for staying with us all of these seasons. This season is going to be just as amazing. We have some really, really fun, really talented dancers as guests, and we're looking forward to continuing to talk with you.
Feel me? Yeah. See my peanut butter jelly snack, pull it, ride, busty, painting. That's my sunshine when it's raining. That's my boo, yeah. When I'm all alone, she pulled through. So when I catch that wave, we gon' move. But then again, we probably won't. Cause I know she like to stay at home.